Hello and welcome everyone to the Annuity Straight Talk podcast, episode number 126. Wanted to follow up on last week's case and talk about the fundamental purpose of annuities. It's important that everybody understand there are a lot of different ways to do it, and the solution is not the same for anyone. I got a lot of feedback on that last week, and it ranged from, hey, good job, to I don't like what that guy's doing. So hopefully I can cover all of that and weave it into, what everybody should be thinking about and how we're doing this, because I'm certainly not putting on you guys or anybody else out there to solve the problem. Leave that to the experts. Just kidding. But I love the feedback, and it's great to know I've created some thinkers and got people interested in figuring this out. And so, yeah, I think it's awesome. So keep doing it. So here's the fundamental purpose of annuities. Now, it's funny because this is actually a title and a case study that I wanted to run, but then last week's fell in my lap, and I thought, how do I do a reasonable follow-up and make good content with it, give you guys something to think about? And this kind of idea popped in my head. It's like, well, I'll do both of them. These are going to work well together as a follow-up to last week, and the biggest lesson is going to get is not the same solution is going to work for everyone. And it's kind of the point of what I'm doing here, to get everybody to think differently about solutions and pay less attention to the novices that are, one product solution for everyone. I guarantee there are a pile of seemingly successful advisors out there who sell one, maybe two products, and they sell a lot of it. And so they're not doing anyone a service but themselves. And in the newsletter, I say a majority of advisors do that. It's not a majority, but there's quite a few of them that do. So when I think about this, and we've done case studies over the past few weeks, and not one person had the same solution. I think we had one person had a bunch of different options, and another person had a couple options. And then we talked about this guy last week. Now, the first one I really wanted to talk about is a guy who really had just one option. But it was an option, though. This is not something that you got to do. And I'm just trying to explain the things that people, or explain the reasons why people do it. The first guy was somebody who desperately wanted a guarantee. This case is shut. We're done with it. He's happy and living his life. But he'd retired for about a year, and the stock and bond market just fluctuated. Everybody kind of seems to focus on what the stock market's doing today. Is it up? Is it down? If it's up, you feel like a hero. If it's down, it's like, oh man, this is terrible. It's like, why do you do that to yourself? So, but when he retired, every time the market moved one way or another, Fidelity would increase or decrease his monthly withdrawal. Sometimes he had a little bit extra spend. Sometimes he was a little short. Steady, predictable payments take a lot of stress out of his life. He was correct to look at annuities. But Fidelity had him a withdrawal based on a fixed percentage of his assets. Asset goes up, you get more. Asset goes down, and that's the traditional planning objective. Hey, this is going to rise over time, so that'll be your inflation adjustment, because we'll just give you 4% forever. So for him to get a fixed payment, it took about 60% of his portfolio, and it guaranteed the income for the rest of his life. So he got the same withdrawal he was getting from Fidelity. It was guaranteed, and he still had 40% of his assets that he could use for the other side of it. That is why you use an annuity. It was important for him to never have to worry about it, and he was motivated enough to make a big commitment. He said, I don't care. He wants to go live his life. He wants it guaranteed. And actually, 60% of his assets gave him a couple $100 more per month than he was getting initially, so he was pretty happy about that. He's like, oh, I'd like to know that I can save a little bit of money too. I was able to get the business on that deal because I saved him about 10% on the purchase. Everybody wanted to sell him a big commission item. I'll be honest, I like selling things that pay me a big commission. It's not always the right thing to do. He got a SPIA, pays quite a bit less than the other ones, but it pays him more. That's why a lot of you guys know that I show you the database, I show you the SPIA, I show you the income quotes, and it just comes down to whatever's best to you. I mean, best for you. A small percentage of something is bigger than 0% or than a big percentage of nothing. Right. So the next case, which is the one I talked about last week, the management companies also have different solutions for every person. So last week's episode, that guy's on a fixed dollar withdrawal. from his portfolio. Withdrawal amounts for the two guys are just the same. The asset levels are different. What withdrawal amounts are. That's where I said the true test of wealth is in the amount of money you need to draw from your portfolio. Somebody with $500,000 who doesn't need to draw anything is wealthier, in my opinion, than somebody with $2 million that needs $100,000 a year out of it. But the fixed dollar amount method carries more risk than the fixed percentage because the withdrawal doesn't change with market fluctuations. So fixed withdrawals in down markets will compound losses. In this case, using an annuity would seem to be more beneficial, and it is. But it's harder to prove, and like the case before, requires adequate motivation from the consumer. So in the first guy had all the motivation in the world to make it happen. The second guy, hey, I'm just trying to figure it out. To that episode, you have to want an annuity to do it. So proving a good use in the first case is the best way to go about it, but it's harder with the fixed dollar amount method because we're talking about hypotheticals. The only hole I can poke in that is market risk. And that's a big one, but it requires sufficient motivation for him to want to get rid of that. So you can run this through any number of simulations. And I just hope people realize what I'm trying to do is find the solution that he wants. I don't just have to sit down and approve the numbers and use my spreadsheet and say, you're better off with an annuity. So really a lot of it was about communication, and I'm just talking to you guys about the numbers. But there's a lot of programs that'll show them one way or the other, whether an annuity works or doesn't. And we want to find mathematical justification for making a move, if at all possible. So remember, at age 60, he had a $96,000 income gap. Current plan to delay Social Security to 70. At that point, Social Security will provide all but $43,000 annually of his income needs. So it can't be understated that this carries significantly more risk in the early years than it does in the later years, and that's my primary focus. Take one problem at a time, not get it off the table. How is he going to handle that first 8 years where the biggest withdrawal is required? So I played with the numbers. You guys saw it. I'm going to focus on one. I do have an incredible solution for a piece of it, which is not exactly a full solution, but he could take Social Security now at $31,000 per year and buy an annuity that makes up the $22,000 difference at age 70. So 31 now, or 53,000 if he waits 8 years to take it. It costs him $160,000 to do that. So $22,000 income gap. So buy the annuity now, defer it for 8 years. When he's 70, he gets $22,000 from that, plus he's got 31 from his Social Security. 60 now, returns $248,000 of payments in the first 8 years, and is going to pay for the rest of his life after that. Investing $160,000 to get an extra $2,500 per month for 8 years dramatically reduces risk on the portfolio and represents an internal rate of return of nearly 11%. $160,000, $2,500 a month for 8 years. Do the math. It's almost 11% internal rate of return. Forgive me if I want to emphasize that is an incredible return on guaranteed money and an initial first move that he should definitely make. So if I find a meaningful solution with less than 10% of his assets, wow, maybe I am a genius. Somebody give me some credit. And maybe this should put to rest the criticism from people who disagree with me when I recommend taking Social Security as soon as possible. Maybe not always, but in this case, try to prove me wrong. Anyone. So in this guy's case, the further commitments to an income annuity are going to depend entirely on his desire to guarantee the outcome. We only have market risk to talk about. I got a lot of feedback and a few advisors that chipped in. I wanted to get their opinions. I was busy this week. I get a little more details about what they thought, but for the most part, they thought it was appropriate to cover. So if the gap was 43,000, just buy the annuity now, which was kind of my initial. Get 43,000 a month per now, takes 25% less or less than assets. Then it reduces the current burden. When Social Security kicks in, the whole gap is covered. There's plenty of other assets to talk about inflation, so we don't have to really worry about that. But a lot of people thought that was appropriate, and it is doable. There's a couple of people that asked about more information. Hey, I need to know more. It's like, well, it's not for you. I'm not asking everybody to figure this out. The feedback is great. The additional questions. it's better for you guys to have a little bit of the information so you ask the questions that you should be asking about your situation. Then you know what to tell me when you call me and we're trying to figure out your case. Now, there was one guy, so you guys know I promote a lot of different thoughts and ideas and a lot of different ways of doing stuff. So one guy said, hey, put $1 million in a MYGA for 7 years. Theoretically, 7-year time frame would basically work for that guy. Draw the $96,000 out. I don't know what the long-term solution was, the 8-year solution. And I don't know if it was a consumer or an advisor, but that's not going to work because that's a bigger draw than the free withdrawal will support over time. So the typical flex strategy will not work, and that's one of the details I didn't emphasize, but it's a single life planning case. Single life payments are higher than joint life. This guy is married, but they're planning separately. That's common. It happens a lot. So anyway, I appreciate the feedback, the suggestions. Ask me, hey, why didn't you do this? All these options are on the table. They're all on the table for everyone. That's why I spent a lot of time doing this. I've spent more time on it because I think it can help you guys figure it out. But we're talking about the fundamental purpose of annuities. Sun's coming up in Tucson, Arizona. My shot's about to go away, but that basically covers it. I appreciate you guys helping me out with this. If you have any further comments, like I said, the first case is set up, done. He's getting guaranteed payments. The second case, we're definitely working on it. This is where I'm going to re-engage him because I've done a lot of thinking about it. We can talk about it at a different level, but I appreciate you guys joining me. Please like, subscribe, or comment on any of your favorite podcast platforms or on YouTube. Love the Arizona weather, hoodie weather in the morning, and I'll be in a t-shirt in, a couple hours. Sun's out, guns out. So thank you for joining me. Hit the little bell on YouTube to be notified when the new videos come out. Top right corner, there's a little bell. Hit that. You're going to get notified. Otherwise, get on my email list, and we'll send them out every Saturday morning. Thank you guys for joining me so much. This has been episode 120, and I will see you guys next week. Okay, thanks. Have a great day. Bye.
You have been listening to Annuity Straight Talk. The preceding information is for informational and educational purposes only and does not represent tax, legal, or investment advice. The views expressed by guests on this program are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Annuity Straight Talk or its partners. No information presented today should be acted upon without meeting with a qualified and licensed professional. It is important that you read all insurance contract disclosures carefully before making a purchase decision. Guarantees are based on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the insurance company.